I don't believe in free will. Discounting the delusion of hindsight, I've seen no evidence of it. And the more I work with people experiencing mental health and addiction challenges, the more convinced I am of this. In fact, it seems the more important the choice is, the less free will applies. I understand the need to hold people accountable for their actions, but I've come to believe that people do the best they can with what they've got at that time. In short, if you could have made a better choice, you would have. I think this all particularly applies when it comes to trauma, or more specifically, intergenerational trauma. The passing down of trauma through cultural transmission and learned behavior, but more fascinatingly, by epigenetic changes, where traumatic events can induce chemical modifications that affect gene expression, potentially altering stress responses, brain development, and other biological functions in offspring. I'm Matthew the Peer. I muse about this because of my guests on today's podcast. Charles and Candace are a father and daughter who are both involved in running an organization that Charles started in 2018 called Thrive to Survive. This organization focuses on providing essential resources and support to individuals experiencing homelessness. Their work is centered around fostering human connections and advocating for the well-being of the unhoused community. As you hear Charles's story and Candace's response, you can see how struggles with addiction, mental health, and trauma can be passed down from one generation to the next. But what I hope you see as well, as you come to understand these two people, is how courage, compassion, and strength of character can be passed down as well. So, what would you like to be called? Just Charles?
Just Charles.
Just Charles? And just Candace?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Charles and Candace. Well, thank you for coming here, Charles.
Yeah.
Candace, so this is your daughter?
It's my daughter, Candace, yes. She's
Okay.
22 years old.
It's nice. I'm glad you're both here. So, Charles, how long have you been in recovery now?
7.5 years. A
7.5
little over
years?
7.5 years now.
Actually, just yesterday, I had 7.
All right.
Yeah, so, but, and then it's my birthday today. So.
Well, happy birthday.
I know, right?
Hey.
I may spin around now and then just to see how things are going. So,
Recovery birthday?
yeah, my recovery birthday.
Today?
This is my actual birthday today.
Oh, belly button birthday
yeah,
today.
and then
Okay.
my recovery was yesterday. So,
Oh, wow.
and Candace, are you in recovery?
No, I'm not.
You know, I think lucky you.
Yeah, right? She's a normie.
Yeah.
She's a normie.
So, Charles, tell me a little bit about yourself real quick. I mean, you're pretty involved here in Vancouver. I mean, you have quite an organization that certainly helps out a lot.
I would say so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got in recovery this time at 37. And I started restoring my life. I don't know if you want me to start from the beginning or what you want to do
actually,
here.
yeah. Tell me how it all started.
Well, I grew up on a 1 acre little compound, really, that full of travel trailers and mobile homes, and numerous cousins and uncles, and parties and fights and drinking and drugging, and I started self-medicating for what I now find is my past traumas and mental health due to different forms of abuse as a child, early as a child. And my real father was never there. He left when I was 1 year old, so my stepfather raised me, and my grandpa and my grandma and my mom and my aunts and my uncles and cousins. But it was a pretty rambunctious upbringing, I would say. I ended up becoming a product of my environment, started using at a young age. 12 years old, started drinking, and then started smoking weed and and all that fun stuff at an early age. I had I had straight A's all the way up to the 6th grade. 7th grade's the last year that I went to school, really. If I did go, as in the front and out the back, to go smoke weed and party and hang out. And I really loved to party and drink because it just took all the trauma and pain away. And it was a way to just self-medicate myself for things that I didn't know until further on in my life, and this time in recovery, that I had, like what trauma was or anything like that. I ended up, I was a little criminal too. I was always in trouble. And I ended up going to juvenile prison at 14 for stolen vehicles and guns and stuff like that. Did some time.
Guns? How old were you? 14?
14, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Stolen gun, possession of firearm, theft of firearm, outrunning police, and grand theft auto.
How long did they put you in for?
Well, I could have only did 6 months, but I told the prosecutor to fuck off in the courtroom, and so...
Judge didn't like that?
No. Prosecutor didn't like that. My mom didn't like that either. And so I ended up doing, they gave me 3 years. I ended up doing 2 with juvenile boot camp.
2 years?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. And so I did the juvenile boot camp out in Connell, Washington. It was like a little circus tent full of, it was just crazy. It was like, we were doing push-ups in 2 feet of snow and running 5 miles a day. And, I thrived in that environment, though, and became the lead platoon sergeant and stuff like that. And
so when you had a little structure?
Yeah. A lot of structure. There was no actual schooling there, but there was a lot of books, and self-taught myself, like trigonometry and calculus and stuff like that. And I always liked math and numbers. And anyway, I graduated from there and ended up back out on the streets and back into the same swing of things, partying, drinking, and full-blown alcoholic. Almost died a few times of alcohol poisoning in my grandma's bathroom floor, and drinking and partying was just the way of life, where we lived. Didn't really know different. Didn't you really know, like, people had like big houses and stuff, really, from where we lived at, out in the middle of nowhere, until like all the big houses started getting built out there by Covington and stuff, Covington Middle School, and I was always the poor friend of the rich kids. I was pretty much a chameleon, can hang around with anybody. I had a pretty bad reputation, I guess, it was just a whole lot of self-medicating, really, looking back at it.
When or who or how were you able to finally identify what you're doing as trauma? I went to frame it that way, where did that come from?
Yeah, so that was, skip fast forward to see it when I was, I've been to treatment several times, but the time before this last time, they sent me to a co-occurrence treatment in Spokane, the CASA facility. Mm-hmm. And that's where they actually had like actual mental health professionals there working with you on site and stuff, and identifying my traumas and stuff like that.
Just like getting a vocabulary?
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of the first step to overcoming that kind of thing. To see it, call it, see what it is.
Name it, yeah.
Yeah, name it.
Be able to name that, yeah. So I partied really hard. The last of my alcohol binge drinking was August 26th of 2022. I'm sorry, let's go back to that. 2002. That's the day my daughter was born.
And that was the last day?
That's the last time I was drinking. Her mother gave me an ultimatum to quit drinking, or else my daughter won't be in my life. So I did, but I was pouring concrete, and I have permanent disabilities in my back and my neck, and had issues my whole life. Was born basically deformed, skeletal deformities, and so I'm in pain all the time. So I was quickly taking a lot of Vicodin at the time. So it was a lot easier for me to quit drinking. It was just, and then, I easily messed up the relationship with her mother. I had a son as well. My son's 19, Chase. We lived up in Longview for quite some time. I was pretty much housebound from my neck injuries and back injuries before I had my neck surgeries. So we were just living with my mom and just trying to get by. And, times are tough. We ended up moving into some low-income apartments, and I ended up getting my neck surgery, my first round. And then, I couldn't pour concrete no more. That's what I knew. That's what I did since I was 12 years old. My stepdad's concrete company. And I was very good at that as well. Her mom had to get a job, and money was tight and stuff. And so I was also selling my prescriptions as well. Mm-hmm. And then in doing that meant a lot of frivolous characters in Longview.
Yeah, I've heard Longview's got a reputation for sure.
Yeah, and so it was pretty much the wild, wild west up there. And I ended up cheating on her mother with several of the women in the apartment complex. And she had finally found out, and she scooped the kids up and moved to Seattle.
Okay.
After a bit of time, we're trying to work on it, but I couldn't get my shit together. At that time, I was doing a lot of methamphetamines and heroin. Well, still opiates at the time, but a lot of methamphetamines. And so...
Yeah, that stuff kind of twists you up a bit.
Oh, yeah. It had a good grip on me. Had a really good grip on me. But yeah, it was definitely, I would say, big old shock to the ego, and losing, my kids moving up to Seattle and stuff. And then at that time became homeless and just living from crap house to crap house, I call it. And, try to get my stuff together. It never worked out. I got quite a few new charges in Cowlitz County, and then ended up in treatment over in Nara back in 2011, I believe it was. Over there in Nara, Native American Rehabilitation Association.
Sure.
Yeah,
You have any indigenous heritage?
My grandmother does, but I don't have anything to speak of in me. So I was pretty much the whitest person there, bald head. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. They really treated me well there. Had great counselors. Unfortunately, I wasn't really there for myself. I was there to try to get my kid back, and that didn't seem to work out. And so I really wasn't I wasn't there because I wanted to fix myself. I was there because I wanted my kids back, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was not really following structure. I did graduate, but I ended up getting a woman pregnant while I was there. And she ended up having a miscarriage, but that just shows you how much I was there for my recovery.
Yeah.
That was my other thing. If it wasn't drugs, if it wasn't alcohol, it'd been the other one, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I did well for a while. I lived at my dad's house in St. Helens, my real dad, who I reunited with. He was gone most of my life on his drug addiction, and in and out of jail, prisons and stuff. And he had been doing good at that time. I think he had like 6-7 years, maybe 10 years in recovery, working for VOA, and bought a house over in St. Helens. And anyway, he was letting me stay in his basement after I got out of treatment, and it was I really wasn't working on myself. I was going to a lot of meetings, but basically just to meet women, and it worked very well for that aspect. I happened to get a year in recovery at the time, and my kids actually came down and and all the way from Seattle, and was there for the weekend to be there for it. And that same night in that same parking lot, my cousin Will, he came to support me, but he was still active in his addiction, and I went out there to talk to him in the parking lot and smoke and stuff, and ended up in his van and seen the meth pipe right in between the seats, and that was it.
That's all it takes, huh?
That's all it took. The power of drugs is unforeseen. It's baffling for sure. Yeah, and so from there I ended up losing my place at my dad's, and then ended up back in Vancouver, where I was with my youngest kid, my 9-year-old's mom. She was in recovery, but I wasn't, and yeah, it was. She ended up losing her place and her Oxford house, and she had a 4-year-old son, and I was out committing crimes every night in her car, and I ended up getting caught up, and ended up going to prison for it.
How long is time?
Just 2.5 years. Yeah. So I ended up going to prison for that, and I got out and was doing okay. Actually, before that, let's get back before that. When I was with her, my sister, up in Longview, she had the 4 kids and the house and all that stuff. My sister Sonia, and she was living out in Toutle on nice property with her husband, and just kind of the dream life, really. All of her girls were kind of little, and just the sweetest, kindest person in the world. And, alcoholism has been part of her life as well. We grew up really close together. Her father was one that abused her and I, and we were really close, pretty much my best friend in the world. But she ended up having bunions on her toes and getting hooked on Oxycontin, Vicodin, and then, how the progression, Oxycontin, and she would continue to get sick when she didn't have it. And so, she was spending a lot of money to get it. I was supplying her. I took her to one of my, at the time, was a really close friend of mine, house to go get some, and I told her never come back here. And somehow she ended up getting the guy's number, and anyway, before you know it, he had her strung out on heroin. It was cheaper, and her husband had found that the bank account has been getting drained from buying all the pills. They were not cheap at the time, $60 a pill. And a pill wasn't even keeping you well for the day. So she ended up strung out on heroin, and at the same time, pretty much I did as well, But when I was running the streets over in St. Helens after I'd done relapsed after that year, I found out that she was in the hospital, and she had overdosed in a hotel. But last I knew, she was in treatment. She was trying to fight to get her kids back, and she was there about 2 weeks, and it was back when it was co-ed at Lifeline. Mm-hmm. And she met the guy, and they ended up leaving. Not even an hour later or being gone, Motel 6, she was, overdosed, and the people that were with her at least called the ambulance before they took off, and the ambulance revived her, but she didn't have no brain function, and so they ended up pulling the plug after 4 days in the hospital. And I use that as an excuse to continue to use at even a deeper level, right? It was all fun and games till it wasn't no more, and just committing all kinds of crimes and doing whatever I could to support my habit, selling drugs, whatever it was, and it just took me to a darker place in my life. And around that time, I was trying to I was living homeless and stuff. And
Like in a tent kind of homeless?
no, this was later. I was living in a tent homeless. This was just before this last run. But at that time, I was, just living in my girlfriend's car or at somebody's house, or, you know what I mean? And it was, it was really tough. I tried to get sober, living at my mom's house before or after my sister had passed. It didn't work out too good. I ended up starting to shoot meth at that time. So that took it to a whole nother level.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Took it to a whole nother level. Things were pretty dark. But, when I was living homeless on the streets in Longview for a little bit, because I was making good money pouring concrete at certain times in my life, I was getting charged the child support. And her mom came up with a parenting plan and all that stuff. And to be honest, I was dope sick from heroin and didn't make it to the court up in Seattle to fight for my kids. So pretty much gave my kids away for heroin, But, fast forward, I've never had a driver's license, I still kept in contact with my kids. My daughter, poor daughter, was always looking for me and stuff. And, I get emotional over that. So.
Yeah, I bet. Take your time.
Yeah. But, even when I had no money or nowhere to go, my grandma and grandpa took care of me, And grandpa would drive me up there to Seattle to get the kids, and that was fun. I gotta take a break.
Okay. We'll take a break.
You're fine, though.
Oh, yeah.
I love you.
Me too.
Don't worry, this is great content for my future book.
Are you a writer? Go ahead.
Trying to be. I'm gonna go sit.
So, Candace, when you hear him talk and tell a story, have you heard it before?
I have, but I don't think we've ever sat down and I've heard it all at one time. But I have heard everything that he has said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what does it make you feel? When you hear it,
if I'm being honest, a lot of myself kind of blocked it out.
Yeah.
But I try to focus on okay, if this did not happen, if this wasn't my family, I would have been a lot different. And I think I'm learning more about myself and about my family to the point where I can continue to make this difference. But of course, it's heartbreaking. I'm sure every child of a person in addiction or a person in active recovery knows the feeling. My dad knows the feeling, from his parents, and their parents know the feeling from their parents. So
when you say feeling for someone that's, let's say, not in recovery, what that kind of elaborate on what that feeling is?
Loneliness, anger, a lot of anger. And I think the biggest thing is probably abandonment. The feeling of abandonment is something that I still deal with to this day.
Yeah.
When you were out your father there, this former of yours, how old were you when he, you talked about, was it you that went to go find him when he was homeless? In that story?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He left when I was
9, I think.
I think I was 8. I was 7 or 8. But I would always be like, where the hell is my dad? Even when I knew he was doing bad things, it was just, where is he? I remember I had the Clark County and the Cowlitz County jail rosters up on my little tiny laptop 24/7. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I know I wanted him to be in jail, because then I knew where he was. There was some record of him, you know? But so I would try to find him all the time. And when I got older, you know, I was a preteen. I was really angry. So I'd start texting him, and I'd be like, on Facebook Messenger, I don't know where you're at, but like, fuck you. You know, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on this. But like, fuck you. Like he said, he did choose drugs over his kids, and that really affected me. And I didn't have any proper outlet. Like, he talked about my mom and losing her and stuff, but she also had a lot of issues herself. So that went with the abandonment, also came with neglect from my other parent. So, and when I asked about my dad and stuff like that, I was always met with hostility. Like, he doesn't give a fuck about you, like, da-da-da-da-da, which is extremely hard to hear as a 12-year-old. So I just kind of took it into my own hands, and I would yell at him, and then I myself started drinking at 13. I started smoking weed at 13. All of that kind of stuff. I was running around. I was stealing cars in Seattle. I was doing all this stuff too. So it's just kind of like how that generational thing goes.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah.
What, like, when I hear you say how you started to use again too, you know, I think it seems like that. Let's say for children that are estranged from their parents, it's almost like you do those activities almost to get closer to them. You know. It's something that if they're doing it, you know, it's like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you look at certain media, like, the show Shameless is so popular, at least, like, to people in my generation. It's very popular, and people kind of romanticize the ghetto, go out on the streets, be a hood rat type of person, and you come from a family who did the same thing, and, you know, you get that notoriety as, I'm not this rich person, I'm not this, I'm not that, so I'm going to embrace the parts of myself that I was taught from my own parents. I don't know if it was necessarily like I needed to feel closer to him, but my mom was also an alcoholic, and so drinking was a big part, and I wanted to, like, get to be closer to her, for sure. But yeah. I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of rant a lot.
No,
so.
it's okay. It's okay. This is a very informal podcast, by all means, you know.
Yeah, trauma's a trip, man. I tell you, it was like, I was the same way with my dad. You know, he was never there. The few times I got to see him growing up, couldn't figure out why he didn't want to be with me, you know. And then ended up fucking being just like him.
Yeah.
You know, without even knowing him. And then now the dude's my hero, you know.
Oh, he's in recovery too, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember you saying something about that.
Well, I mean, yeah, and like also, I think a big turning point for me is I was always told, you know, all of the negative things about my dad, you know, and there wasn't a lot of sympathy for people who were in addiction.
No.
Whatsoever. And then I went to my 9th grade health class, and one of the biggest things they taught us were the actual brain-altering substances, and all of those substances were things that my dad were doing, and how it physically blocks and changes your brain And I think that was one of the biggest things that led me to forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. You're able to see it it wasn't something personal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make it right.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't make it right, but that was something that I was like, oh shit, maybe just a little bit of grace is okay, you know? Mm-hmm. And then he had to work his way to our relationship today.
Yeah.
He had to.
Yeah. Well, you said when you were kind of out there running and gunning, I mean, when did you turn it around? What was it?
Honestly,
unless you're still out there stealing cars, I don't want to say
no. My mom moved me away from Seattle when I was a junior in high school, and we ended up moving to Moscow, Idaho, where the campus of Idaho State is, and then right across the highway is WSU. So I stopped anything with cars or anything like that. I didn't do anything in Idaho, but it gave me another avenue to self-medicate. So I was out partying with college kids as I still had braces on my teeth, all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I stopped dealing and I stopped doing that kind of stuff when I was a junior in high school, which I don't even think my dad knows that I ever dealt drugs or anything like that. But I did. Incriminating myself on here. Anyway. And then I continued to drink heavily and, other drugs. I never went into opiates or anything like that, but I did do other drugs until, how long ago was that now? 3 years ago. I had a bit of a breakdown and my dad had to come pick me up and take me to a hospital. So, and then after that, of course, I didn't stop drinking or I didn't stop anything, but a few months after that, I was like, I can't be in this relationship that I was in anymore. And I slept on my dad's couch for six months straight.
And was he in recovery at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, This was 3 years ago. So, yeah, he had his place. My little brother was living with him. And yeah, so that's
you see that generational trauma, the generational cycle.
Yeah. I've heard it said.
I was living in my dad's basement, getting my life together. She was living on my couch. It's just like, I guess it's a trip, man. It is really a trip.
It is a little baffling, right?
It is, yeah.
As they say. But, I remember you told me this one jaw-dropping tale once. Like, the first time we met, you told me this tale how you'd be out there trying to get people sober, and your kind of stuff like that, and they'd, I don't want to tell you a story, but they'd overdose in front of you. And,
yeah.
I was like, holy moly.
Yeah. I ended up getting high with their shit.
Yeah.
Back on the run again. Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, that's how I learned a really hard lesson. I literally died being in recovery, trying to go back out on the street to help my friends that were still out there and tell them how great fucking recovery is. And without no sponsor, no structure or anything like that, and literally been Narcan myself, going to save people. And when I became a recovery coach, my first recovery, Kyle, rest in peace, that was the biggest thing I warned him, and he ended up doing the same thing, even though warning him, and sharing my story with them. He ended up doing the same thing, because you grow very fond with those people that you live with on the street, or anywhere, in your addiction.
There's a certain bond when because you're all just in the trenches, together.
Yeah. There's a bunch of misfits just trying to stay well or self-medicate,
Yeah, I was homeless for almost 2 years. Yeah. It's like madness, just absolute insanity.
Yeah.
But you hustle when you're out there.
Oh,
It's like you got stuff to do.
Yeah, damn right. You're damn right.
It's like I had my meth habit, my wife's meth habit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd use anything I could get hold of. I had to be Narcan once, but
Yeah.
but or twice or 3 times
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yep.
But so it sounds like almost like your dad's recovery is what kind of gave you, Candace, a way to, a safe place for you to heal a little bit, and get some
Oh,
structure.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I work for Thrive to Survive now, the nonprofit that my dad founded. And I didn't, when I was living on his couch, I didn't want to get a job. I didn't want to clean for him. I didn't want to do any of that. But I needed to heal. I really did. So I did. Sat on that couch a lot. a lot. And just, he was a recovery coach at this time, and seeing what he did, or like we would go on a drive and he'd be like, yeah, like I went and saw those people, and it really affected me. I was just like, oh my God, like it needs to break. Like it's gone on for way too many generations of our family. And yeah, so seeing him clean and seeing him actually doing it really, really helped me with everything that I was going through, especially my mental health part of it. Yeah, so I cleaned up. Yeah.
It seems like mental health is really a big thing. I mean, obviously trauma. I mean, I have been in a psych ward.
Me too.
Someone asked me like how many times. I don't know. It's kind of foggy, It's like,
Yeah.
some of them is like,
It is.
it's like
never
where was that
forget-
again? Was that Bellevue?
I'll never forget the turtle suits, though. That's for sure.
Oh, I never had one of those. I was pretty happy. By the time, because I was just manic, just out of my mind.
Yeah.
That's kind of a fun place to be. I was like, But I was just getting into trouble, I knew every time my dad showed up at my doorstep, I knew I had to go either rehab or a psych ward, one or two. But now I just take a slew of medications. It's like 5 of them or something like that. It's like, I still get into trouble sometimes.
Yeah.
It's odd when you get into a mental health crisis. You're inside it, and it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you're kind of trapped there. Well,
That's where I was at the end stage of my using before I got in recovery this time. It was nonstop psychosis. I mean,
Really?
I was almost in a psychosis for a year after getting in recovery this time.
what was your thing when you were psychosis? What did you think? Paranoia?
Always
or-
paranoia, yeah.
paranoia?
Cops chasing me, people gang stalking. All
gang
that.
stalking,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Gang
all that
stalking.
good stuff. It's like, I'd wake up in sticker bushes and be like, it's like, oh, fuck, I'm glad I made it out of that one. And I was like, fuck. But there I go get high again. And I was like,
Was it method
one of these times-
use psychosis?
method use
Yeah. I know it's like,
But then I started doing it with shooting it with heroin at the same time, and it calmed that down.
oh man, I nearly killed myself doing that once.
Yeah, that's how I did it for the last, 2-3 years of my using.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, sometimes Jack Daniels with it, or liquid methadone, or liquid morphine.
Charles, you're lucky to be alive.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be alive. Very lucky to be alive.
Yeah,
I had holes all up and down me, man. Yeah, it was bad. But just going back, like at that 14 years old, I became, I lost my right to a driver's license.
They didn't trust you with a car, huh?
No. I never had a driver's license till I was 37 years old when I got in recovery this time.
How old are you now?
I'm 45.
45. Okay.
Yeah. Not yet 45, 44.
Yeah, I just turned 54
I don't know.
today.
I did a lot of drugs. I don't even fucking know how old
I know, it's funny.
sometimes.
I was telling the 7-Eleven person, it's like, oh, today's my birthday. And she's like, oh, happy birthday. I go, I didn't think I'd live this long.
Yeah.
But I realized, oh my God, when you think you're not going to live this long, you realize you could die at any time, But it says, but to be less, glib, I mean, you do have a sense of your mortality. It makes the time that you have here very precious.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wonder if that's what drives a lot of people
That's
into
what
service.
drives me, for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Because
what drives me, for sure.
no, well, I'll tell you, probably the best part of your story is like, so how'd you do it, as they say at the
How'd I
Recovery
do it?
Cafe? How'd you do? I mean, what was it that just finally just that time? Did you have like a flash of light on the mountain kind of experience, or was it something that just evolved over time?
No, it was, always wanted to be a father because I never had one, and I think that's what saved me through all this shit is my kids, right? Is wanting to be a father. This time I was looking at 10 years in prison, and I just happened to be lucky enough to get drug court. And I was done. I was just, there was no further down that I can go. I tried, but I ended up getting drug court, and it was, it was lucky enough to get drug court because the lady that saved my dad's life in Oregon State Prison, Debbie Akers, she was his drug and alcohol counselor in Oregon State Prison over 21 years ago. And he's been sober ever since. Anyway, he had a connection with her and had called her, and she was working Lifeline counselor for the drug court program. And she had, said that, she came in down and did my screening and stuff. And it was like, she said it was like sitting across from the same person, She was like, holy shit, and... she said that there is a better way of life, and that through this program, recovery is possible. And so I just listened to her. From that day on, I just took suggestions.
I think you touched on something. I think like a lot of times, because doing the work that I do, I think recovery often happens when you finally decide to trust someone. That woman, you say you trusted that she had your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And that in doing so, you were ready to listen to her. You chose to trust what she had to say. Because I'm sure lots of people have told you the same damn thing, many times. But
you hear all the same things.
And I get it, And I think you actually got sober for the same reason I did. Because when I got sober, I was like in a tent. Diabetes so bad, it's not 135 pounds. Right?
Yeah.
I just kept pissing gallons all the time. I couldn't drink water fast enough. Yeah. I finally got so weak. I was in a tent by the side of the freeway. I finally got so weak that I couldn't even go up and get water anymore.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing my wife walking away on the path, and I realized, what got me sober was love.
Yeah.
Like you were saying for your kids, but for me, for wife, that you actually love something enough. And then, of course, what kept me sober was other people's love for me.
Yeah. The connection.
Yeah. That's what they call natural supports.
Natural
clinical
supports.
Setting, but just people that miss you if you're not there, kind of thing. Ideally family, but if not that, you can making a community like a recovery cafe. That's an amazing spot.
Yeah.
But so.
Yeah, that place saved my life as well. Going through drug court, and I was in and out of the hospital a lot. Due to my medical complications, they gave me, even Debbie even came back to me like 3 or 6 months into the drug court program. Even though in and out of the hospital, I was still making every meeting, every piss test, still following through with everything I had to follow through with all the medical stuff I was going through. With my heart and my esophagus and stuff, and she even gave me a chance. She's like, "You're medically fucked," Basically, she told me in the parking lot. She was like, "We can probably write off this drug court," And I said, "I need this shit. I need the accountability. I need the connection. Because without it, I'm just gonna die." Left to my own devices, not good. Not good.
No, it sounds like, did you go to any meetings? Or anything like that? Like hardcore folks did steps, all that
12-step meetings, Had a sponsor, had a great sponsor. My sponsor introduced me to service work, I've been introduced to that before with my dad in St. Helens, 12-step meetings and stuff like that. But finally asking another man for help is what really took it to a whole nother level, And trusting in this person that share a 4-step with and feeling comfortable enough to do so. Again, at the time, my 4-step really wasn't very didn't have much context to it because I still couldn't remember shit. It was all a fog, really. Still kind of in a psychosis, just no mental clarity. I was on a lot of mental health medications. Just asking another man for help took it to a whole nother level. and then getting involved with Recovery Cafe. I got involved with the Clark County Recovery Coalition. I've been asked to share my story at the opioid summit and stuff they do. They were doing it in Vancouver that year, and got asked to do that, and then got connected with the Recovery Cafe, which was born kind of out of that Recovery Coalition. And meeting those people there was huge, you know. The way I really met them was so my sponsor, you know, he was telling me service work keeps you clean, so here I go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's true. I think people that are in recovery, I mean, they're going to have, if they want to stay sober, they really have to incorporate some kind of service work in what they do. You know?
I believe in it full-hearted, but I also let people know that I tell that too nowadays is like you have to have some sort of balance too. Like service work with guidance and structure is different than just service work keeps you clean, because you can burn yourself out real easy, you know, especially addicts, right? We're overachievers, overdoers. And, you know, through that service work, though, I started doing, you know, I finally got my driver's license for the first time at, I think, 37 or 38. And I was on Social Security, living at the drug courthouse.
Oh, you're on disability?
Permanent disability. I'm not on it no more. I worked myself off of it.
Yeah, eventually they stopped giving me money after a while. You can hold it down a job, you know.
Yeah, I worked myself off of it. It was a scary thing, but you know, doing that service work with my sponsor, we were down at the share house where I was living homeless before this last time.
The place is insane.
It's insane. It is insane.
It's like the Upside Down. You know?
But I have a special attachment to it, you know, for the times living out there with the individuals that, you know, that everybody, you know, they're invisible to, you know, until you see all the garbage and tents. But really, every single of those persons is the same kind of story as myself or yourself or anybody else, you know. There's somebody's son, dad.
There's somebody.
You know what I mean? Somebody just trying to freaking get by and survive, right? And anyway, but doing that service work kind of lit a fire under me. It did light a fire under me. You know, there was a lot of individuals in churches going down and doing the feeding and stuff like that. And I had, it was pouring down rain. We were doing a spaghetti feed down there, and I had walked along the share house there on the sidewalk, and it kind of tripped over a little tarp that was laying there. And this little lady comes out with, she had freaking just crippled hands, and just, she was laying in the bare mud with the tarp over her in the rain, and that's all she fucking had, you know. And got to talking to her, you know, her name's Tessa, and had a great conversation with her, and, you know, just hearing her story, and then, you know, being able to relate with her, you know, from being out there myself, and then, you know, I went back to the crew that I was with, and, you know, I had a little money at the time, Social Security, actually, I didn't got my Social Security at that point. I had no money. And I got to give a shout out to Tim at the drug courthouse, because he let me stay there for pretty much free to $50, you know, like, even with all the medical conditions, like he was, anyway. But I ended up asking the individuals I was with, I was like, hey, you know, can you guys pitch in $25 or $5 each to get her at least a tent? And they pretty much told me that they did enough for the day, and it pissed me off and lit a fire under me. And so I went to social media and put a Facebook post out, and 2 days later, I think it was, there was a tent on the front porch of the drug courthouse. And so I went down there to go take it to her and stuff, and she had already been gone. She had burnt down her spot just trying to stay warm. And but there was an African-American gentleman sitting on the other corner and had his little spot all cleared out, but no tent. And he was deaf, and the person next to him was like, hey, you need a tent? And he's like, yeah, he's been waiting for one. So I ended up giving him one, and just being able to be a resource like that for somebody was kind of the catalyst that drove the rest of my, you know, career to where I'm at today. And being able to, so I started going down there, just filling the little Hello Kitty station wagon I had up with clothes and McChickens, but the most important thing was like the resource flyers, right? The flyers that we have that, you know, we used to hand out and stuff, but, you know, how to get a housing assessment or who to call, you know, for a phone or medical or those kind of things, right? And, you know, started doing that more often, and my friend Jen, she started coming into the encampments with me to be able to connect with the women's of the camps, and we just started like empowering certain people in the camp. You know how certain people in the camp, they're like the lead camp person. So instead of bothering everybody in the camp, hey, do you want this, do you want that, we'd have them disperse it out and hand out those flyers and stuff. And the goal was to like always have like a, you know, like a veteran stand down, like one place and one time people can actually come get these resources and stuff. And you know, and then coming through there, and I was handing out shoes. This lady, I'd put out a thing. My friend Lynn, you know, put out a thing that they needed some shoes for these youth, and I had a bunch of shoes. You know, I was pretty resourceful and brought shoes to the Recovery Cafe, and there was a thing on the. I met this lady named Gloria, sweet Gloria. And there's a thing on the counter that talked about recovery coaching. I was like, "What's that?" You know, and she was telling me about it. You know, people that use their lived experience to help other people through finding their own recovery. You know, and I was like, "Man, that's really exciting." You know, and so I was like, does anybody, like, how do you pay for this? You know, there's a fee and all that stuff. And she's like, oh, I don't think there's any sponsorships, but let me take your number. And I gave her my number, and I ended up getting sponsored to do the classes. And the other reason that attracted me is like all my friends that were in drug court or were working for drug court or people that I knew from the streets, you know, that were in similar situations as myself, and were able to use that lived experience as a pathway to not only support themselves but to help other people, you know. And so through that, you know, I became a volunteer at the Recovery Cafe, because back then it was all volunteer. You know, I think I volunteered for like 6 or 8 months, and then the cafe got some funding to hire people, and myself and 4 others were like the first of the 5 employees there. My job interview with the executive director at the time was very awkward because I've never had one. You know, my job interview pouring concrete was like, I'll show up for the day, work for free, and then if you like me, you stay, you know, they'll keep you. But anyway, I was like, yeah, you know, I got a lot of medical conditions, you know, I've done a lot of fucking drugs, so it's hard to remember stuff, but I just want to help people. And he was like, yeah, sure, let's try it, you know. And through that really helped me too through drug court as well, because having that further connection just outside of the drug court connection. Drug court was a wonderful connection that helped save my life. And I ended up graduating drug court with no missed UAs, no missed class, no missed court, no missed nothing, like flawlessly.
Nice.
Never planned it that way, but when they say one day at a time, that's still how I live my life, and that's how I lived it then. And and what was really attractive in the drug court program back then is that they had drug court mentors. And these were other men or women that's been through the process, right? And are now trying to help other people through the process. So that was really attractive to me. And I ended up becoming a drug court mentor myself. After I graduated drug court, and, I won drug court mentor of the year. That was really cool. The little Honda had broke down at the time, and my dad and my brother and stuff pitched in to get me another little car. And, you know, through that and doing the recovery coach training was something that was another catalyst towards my future, you know. It was the things that still being on disability, and then also working, at the cafe. It was a very small wage back then and stuff, but it come to a point where they give me a management and leadership position, and it had to make the choice of either working a job or stepping off the Social Security or staying on the Social Security, and I wasn't going backwards at this point or ever. I don't feel like going backwards. And but through the connection of the cafe and meeting a lot of people and being on different boards and committees that have to do with recovery or mental health, started gathering other people alongside me, because many hands make light work, and we put on our first event at the Day Navigation Center that we had back then.
And for those that don't know, I mean, what's the focus of these events? We say an event. What is that?
Okay, so the Thrive to Survive resource events is exactly that. It's like providing those resources that individuals have to jump through many hoops and lose many different breaks in connection to try to get that resource, right? So that originally it was those flyers. It was the resource table, right? So food brings people, right? Food brings people, but then having that resource table was the most important part of the event,
right? It's almost like a social services industry event. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah, social service industry. Yeah, that's another way.
For people to come by and easily access resources that could help them get off the streets, find food, get a job,
get a phone, and so we had food, and my friend Lisa would get the desserts, and the mayor would show up and bring apple pie, and then we had clothes, and at that time we would just throw a tarp down and just throw the clothes on the ground, on the tarp, and people can go through the clothes and stuff, and through that first event, it was very successful, very fruitful. But I also seen that girl that lady Tessa again, and she was still in a bad way. I happened to notice her because she was coming through the line and she was trying to get food again. And some people were telling her she can't have food again. And I said, people can have as much food as they want, And talking with her, and she was very incoherent and out of it really still at this point. And Outsiders In and Ren and Adam, they were a huge support as well, and they were able to get her a tent and stuff. And then we did our next one at River City Church. And then at this point, through her connection with Ren and Adam, she had been back on mental health medication. She was all dressed up. She was like totally day and night person. You can have a full-on conversation with her, and it just further restored hope that what we were doing was working. At this time, I became the volunteer manager at the cafe, and hired my friend Rory as the volunteer coordinator, and we were working hard on getting the events off the ground and just expanding on them and stuff. And she helped put on that first bigger one at River City Church, because at this time the Navigation Center had been shut down. We did quite a few of them there. And what really made them bigger too is I had this guy from the Colombian Lifeline. They came back to me and asked me if I would do a story about my journey and stuff like that, and medication-assisted treatment, and for the Washington Helpline. They were working on a grant towards that, and so I did. And then I got to meet this guy Wyatt from the Colombian, and he's just a smooth-looking guy, young guy, clean cut, brand new Adidas on and stuff. And he's sitting in a little tiny room with me, and and he's asking me all these questions, and I just turned it all around on him. I said, tell me about yourself. Why are you doing this? Why, you got asked me all these questions, and got to know him a little bit, and made a really good connection. I told him that he's going to have to come off with them Adidas before he left the room. And that kind of bonded us a lot right there, you know. And anyway, he wanted to do a recovery campaign with me, and he started to follow me around. I was part of the original member of the Clark County Opioid Task Force, which is now the Prevention and Recovery Alliance. I was part of that with Jim Jensen and them, and he's followed me to that. I've been on the Behavioral Health Advisory Board for Southwest Washington at that time because mental health is part of my story. So things that were part of my story or that helped me, I was trying to be part of and help further them. And anyway, he followed me around to those, and he followed me around for about 6 months. He'd come to the cafe, did a story on the cafe, and then he did a story on the last navigation center thing we did. And from there, he's like, well, what would you hope to get out of this? And I said, well, hopefully to get more people to walk alongside me, you know, so that we can help more people. And through that, we got a bunch of volunteers after that, you know. And then we did the River City one, and it was very successful. And then
How is success measured? When you say it's successful, what kind of metrics, so to speak, were you basing that on?
I would say the success of it would be in the people, not just the guests, but the individuals, the volunteers, that providing them also with the platform or avenue to be able to give back as well on a different scale that we wouldn't be able to do if it was just me and you, right? It's just me and you going out and doing something. And so that was one of the successes. Of course, the guest, you know, any more than zero is success. So that's always a success. I like quality over quantity, really. And then the other one is the agencies that come. So it's kind of a trifecta, you know, the agencies that come as well, as now they're meeting each other, right?
Yeah.
So that's a success if they can make a connection with another agency that they didn't have before, and also a human connection with the people that are there. That's success to me. You know, and then they started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and stuff like that, you know. At this point, I was I took on the manager role for the Recovery Navigator program, and I helped build that program. Well, actually, through COVID, I helped build the telephone recovery program at the cafe. And then the Recovery Navigator program came up, and that's I really wanted that, and they gave me a shot at it, and did it very well. And Thrive was growing so big on the side of that, and it was becoming more than just a weekend thing. And I ended up getting let go at the cafe, and back in August of 23, was it 23? Yep. Back in August of 23, you know, one of my big friends and supporters helped make sure that I could bridge the gap of Start and Thrive to Survive and be able to still pay my rent, and made a generous donation to Thrive. And oh man, it's just blown up even more since then.
Well, I have to say, you know, even if I didn't take into account where you came from, I mean, yeah, those events are really impressive. I mean, absolutely. I remember the first time I saw it, I met you. I was like, how do you do it? And you're like, I just watched YouTube and learned how to do a couple of grants. It's like, what YouTube? And that day I went home, actually, and looked for grant writing on YouTube.
Grant writing, yeah. I went to some grant writing classes. But I tell you how I really do it. It's not just me. It's the connection and the people around. The phenomenal community support. Even, I mean, from day one of my recovery, it's the connection and the people around me.
It's connections.
People and connections. Sure. I can't do none of this shit alone. I ain't nobody special. You know, there's nothing more special about me than anybody else. You know, I use those hustling skills that I had in my addiction and my recovery. You know.
I feel like you're downgrading it by calling it hustling skills or anything like that. You're a very, very personable person, and you know how to use what you've been through to connect with others. And that's not hustling, that's being honest, and that's growing your life and other people's lives as well.
Well, you got a better vocabulary than I do.
No, because I just don't want people to think that there's any kind of, I don't know. All of your work is honest work.
Yeah. Integrity.
You've built Thrive around integrity. And even when people question that integrity, because they do look at our success, at your success, at Thrive's success, you've been nothing but completely fair. And yeah.
It sounds like you have a lot of pride.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thrive to Survive is very, very important to me.
Yes.
I mean, at one point you resented him, and now it's recovery has given you the strength. It sounds like.
I spend every day with him now.
Yeah.
He hears me yell a lot, that's for sure. That I have to be like, oh gosh, you're not just my dad, you're my boss. Let me just go back into my office.
I'm very tough on her as well. You know, I don't want anybody to be able to say that she was given anything or she didn't earn it because she was my daughter, you know.
All right.
She works hard for her shit.
I think one other thing I want to say about the success of Thrive to Survive is when you go at the events, we have been asked multiple times, and I know me specifically have been asked at least twice, like, well, there's not as many people as last time. So are you sure it's doing good? There's not as many people here as last time, because we could get anywhere from 1,400 people through the door to 600 people through the door. So it looks like a significant drop. But what I always tell them is Thrive Survive's goal is to one day to be put out of business.
Yes.
That every single person in Clark County and then on is getting the resources that they need, and there's less hoops to jump through. There's less stigmatization. There's less all of this stuff that we don't need to be a resource for the resources, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, the less people there, we want it to be the less people that need help. If that makes sense.
It's evident the impact that it's had, you know, because a lot of the people that we originally met that were guests through the door, and I see every guest through the door could be somebody that can take my seat. They should be able to take my seat or will be able to, right? Or above that, beyond what I've done, right? I truly see that in people, you know, because I was that person. I was a guest. I was a guest of the Daddy D's Thanksgiving feasts many times, homeless, you know. Mm-hmm. So I've been that person that walked through the door, you know, and I've had the same thing. I had somebody at the last one say, you know, it's like, man, it doesn't seem like there's many people as normal. And I'm like, well, then I feel that maybe it's working then, you know. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's working, and the work that you're doing is working, you know. Maybe these people already have that resource, maybe not even, may not need it anymore. Or a lot of the people that come through the door now are those guests, like I was saying, or that are now volunteers for Thrive, or now have a job through coming through a Thrive to Survive event, because they were able to get their ID, which means they were able to get their job, and now they have an apartment, and now they got their kids living with them, you know. Now they're graduates of drug court, or, you know, working on going back to college and stuff like that. It's those personal stories that are really, I guess that's the real success, that human connection part, you know, that human connection part.
Yeah.
And the growth.
Well, any last words? Anything you'd like to say? How about to each other? Anything? You know? Or has it all been said?
I'm sure there's a whole lot more.
We can go longer if you want.
I love you to death, that's for sure. No, I mean, again, it's my life is nothing without my children or the connection of my, you know, and the community and my family and stuff like that. That's what's most important to me. And I just shout out to every single person that's been part of my journey, because that's how I learn, bro.
Yeah.
No, I ain't got no college education. Like I said, 7th grade was really my last time I stopped learning. In school, I got my GED in prison, you know, and so I learn from the people around me that are doing it right or not doing it right. You know.
Lessons with both, huh?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day's training day for me. Every day's college or school for me. This is my education.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Charles, Candace, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope I did all right.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
All over the
You
place,
did just,
man.
you did just
There's a lot
fine.
of stuff I missed.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast today. I'm Matthew the Peer. Be well, and I hope you can join us again.